Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's SCAT, Special Cybernetic Attack Team, brought to us by Natsume. While the name is not the greatest, the game actually is pretty fun. It's a scrolling shooter that both horizontal and vertical parts. As we begin the game, you can play it 1 or 2 player, and you can select from one of 2 characters, though they both play the same. You have Arnold and Sigourney. I'm going to play as Sigourney here. And yes, Arnold and Sigourney are named after Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sigourney Weaver, and even modeled slightly after them. In fact, that was changed up for when the game was released in Europe. As we begin the game, the coolest thing about SCAT is the extra cannons that you have. You use the other button, instead of firing with them, instead activates them and they start moving. You can then press it again in order to freeze them in place, so you could have the cannons going straight up and down, or diagonally, or in front of you. And there are certain times when obviously it makes more sense to put them in a certain direction in order to help you out the best way possible. There are a handful of power-ups / other weapons to pick up around the levels themselves. You have the bomb weapon, which every time you fire and it hits something, you can see it does a little explosion. That little explosion can also hurt enemies. You have the wave, which shoots out a wave-like beam. That's one of my favorites and probably the one I use more often than not. And there's also the laser. Pinpoint shot, very quick and damaging for sure. You can also pick up speed upgrades and letter R's, which stand for recovery, and there's always one near the end of each one of the levels to give you some of your health back. There's no extra lives or anything like that. That's why you end up having that health bar instead. That kind of works as each hit being a little bit of a life. As far as the weapons are concerned, you may wonder, there's going to be a ton of weapon upgrades all throughout the game, and if you pick up the same one twice, it doesn't do anything special. There's no reason to pick them up once you've gotten them. But in the Japanese version of the game, whenever you get hit, you lose your power-ups, so that's why that game ended up having a lot more power-ups scattered around. They also know that the bomb is the least effective of the weapons, because they seem to put a lot of them, especially in locations where it can be hard to dodge it. I like being able to fire through certain walls, especially with the laser and the wave. You can take out some turrets usually that are lining ceilings and such. Be sure to grab the letter R located down here as we're nearing the end of stage number 1, where we will deal with our first boss here. Where we need to attack is the dead center. I'm going to get up really close and then just try to back away and get away from the explosions. Then head down here. I'm going to fire at the cannons below to get rid of them real quick. Then go back up and finish off the centerpiece. Using the laser is pretty effective for taking this one down. After each level, you get to see what your score is, the high score, which you'll already have set by the end of level 1, and how much life you currently have. The publisher of the game, Natsume, is one of my favorites. They put out a lot of great stuff, including the likes of Shattered Hand, Power Blade, Shadow of the Ninja, Pocky, and Rocky, which is easily some of the most fun and challenging run and gun style gameplay you can get. They also put out Wild Guns and lots of other titles throughout the years that were very enjoyable, and of course the Harvest Moon series. What, if any, Natsume game or franchise is your particular favorite? And if your favorite is the Harvest Moon franchise, I would like to know which is your particular favorite one. I'm a big fan of the Harvest Moon series. It's something, though, that's hard to do any sort of play it through or video like that for, just because there's a lot involved and it wouldn't necessarily be the most interesting video of all time, for sure, but maybe one day. Just going to keep working our way through the level, focusing our attacks, especially up and down, and take out turrets anytime they end up showing up. The big kind of stretch arm enemies can be a little bit annoying, but a lot of times they end up missing us. You have to attack the top of it in order to deal damage. Here I'm going to switch back over to the wave gun. Like I said, whichever gun is your preferred gun, just stick with it. There's no real reason to change it up. Sometimes it's difficult to even tell if you take damage. There's just so much going on. I have to pay attention to see if my character ended up getting hit. Health is pretty crucial in this game since you have such limited of it, but thankfully you have more so than you had in the Japanese version of the game. Instead of starting with 6 health, you only have 3. I love the fact that the game also has different names depending upon the region you're in. If you're playing it in North America, it's known as SCAT, but if you're playing it in Europe, it's known as Action in New York, and then Final Mission for the Japanese version. For the boss here, we're gonna immediately get up close and start attacking. The worm-like creature will move all around, eventually going into one of the holes. It'll then pop out one of the other ones. There's lots of bosses in classic games similar to this one. I usually like to stay around the center, giving me ample opportunity to kind of start moving around. If I do get hit, just get up close for that extra second of invulnerability and try to deal some damage before getting away. It's a little bit challenging for sure, being able to actually land your shots. You can set your cannons wherever you would like them during the fight. I usually don't find really an efficient way since he's always coming from different directions. But once the boss is taken care of, we're moving on to level number 3. Level number 3 definitely starts to increase the difficulty. It'll get much harder as we make it to the final level. The 5th level just bombards you with stuff non-stop. Usually, if I was running through this game, I have no problem up until the 4th and particularly the 5th level. So many times I've lost in the 5th level. For this level, it will start to speed up and go really fast. It can be kind of blinding almost with your character and being able to see. Usually I just kind of fire consistently, keep my eyes focused on my character. That way at least I can tell kind of what's going on and what's coming at me. If I try to look at everything going on, I just end up getting cross-eyed trying to see exactly what's coming at me. Probably one of my least favorite areas of the game just because of the scrolling background. You have this random debris that's set up as well that you can just blast out of the way. You can't destroy it, but you can knock it out of the way. Destroy the red cannon on the wall that's firing out the shots diagonally. Having the bomb for a second allowed me to hit that at least easier. I'm going to switch back, though, to the wave. During this segment, you're going to be surrounded. Just keep firing, and wherever you see your opening, just immediately take it and go through so that you don't end up getting bombarded by all the other robots. Right here is a field of letter Bs. They just throw a ton of them at you. Like, it wants you to change the bomb, which is not that efficient right here. So I recommend sticking with the wave or the laser. This is one of those shooters that's definitely a lot of fun to player, and it's something that I have some fond memories of over the years. Here we have that part with the robots again. Just fire and then take your opening. Here we have 2 of those cannons on the wall. Take out whichever one first and then focus on the other one. We are thankfully almost to the end of this area with the background going as fast as it is. Here, just attack both sides real quick as everything's trying to just bombard you. More robots trying to gang up. Just keep blasting left and right, have your cannons going both directions, just everywhere, and you shouldn't have too much trouble surviving that part, and eventually the screen comes to a slow crawl. Here we're now up in space. We're going to pick up the letter R to get some of our health back. Just take care of a few enemies before we end up reaching the boss battle. For this boss, we're going to take out the blue cannons just really quickly, try to take out both of them very fast. There's just so much fire going on, it's hard to dodge it, so just blast them and take them both down as quick as you can. Then once inside, be careful of a few cannons that are going to be on the top and bottom of the part until it goes back into the more open area where you have more of them. This time though, we're going to stay at the top and keep firing at the one there until we take it down. Then go to the bottom one, dodge the blue attack, and then focus on the center cannon. An easy, safe way to do this is use your other cannons to just kind of get a diagonal shot going and just blast it enough until it takes enough shots to be blown up. Now the fight's not over yet though. We still have the next part. We're going to stay in the center and blast and just move slightly up and down, dodging out of the way of each of these bullets and destroying the projectiles that it's firing out at us. The wave gun is particularly useful here. It'll take a little bit, but the boss will be taken care of, and we're moving on to level number 4. Two more levels left to go here in SCAT as we continue on. Now, also interestingly enough, in the European version of the game, instead of being called SCAT as a team, they're called S.C.A.T. Still not a great acronym, but still a lot better than just SCAT. So begins the long trek on this giant ship thing here. These lasers are exceptionally annoying. We're going to head all the way over to the right and then wait for the blast and then slowly start going up as the screen scrolls. Don't start moving until it does. That way you don't accidentally get blasted by one of the lasers. Make sure you're high enough up so that when the screen starts scrolling to the right, you don't get hit by the other big laser firing cannon that's located there. You can destroy the thing that shoots out those enemies, but depending upon where you're situated, it can be difficult to actually get fire off on it. At the top here, I'm going to try to just wait for that opportunity and then go over as quick as I can as these missiles are coming out of these cannons. You can destroy the cannons, but once I got past them, it's not necessarily something that I had too much worry about. Though it would have been funny had I gotten hit. Here we're going to destroy this right here and then wait for the screen to start scrolling upwards, so that way we just have less to deal with. Watch out for the lasers once again and just keep working your way up. Just slowly move your way along the top. Usually I fire backwards just to help me. There's more enemies coming that way usually. Switch back over to the wave. Once we are here, the screen will slowly start to scroll up again. Destroy both of these enemy shooting cannons if you want to, just to help you out. Wait for the laser and then go up yourself to destroy the next enemy cannon. Here, destroy the other cannons and then wait for the opportunity to start firing at the ship itself. You can stay on the left side and just move slightly up and down, dodging the fire in between the various shots. This isn't the end part of the level, this is just like the first part of the boss. We still have a little bit more to go before we actually make it to the stages boss. Take out each one of the cannons as they end up showing up. That way you just don't have anything to really deal with too much here. Destroy the enemy shooter down at the bottom here, and the screen will start to scroll back over to the right. Here you get both a B and a W, whichever one you end up preferring. Definitely the W. Just do what you've been doing the entire time in this level with these various cannons that we've been dealing with. Here we come to both a speed power-up and a recovery power-up, so we can get that extra bit of health. So for this boss, you want to make sure your cannons are firing in front of you, so make sure they're locked in that position. And blast each one of these one by one as the flames retract. You don't want to, of course, be right there when the flame comes out. There's a good gap between when it's going to come out again, so you have that opportunity to get out of the way and get plenty of shots in on one of the cannons. Once you've destroyed one, keep doing the process over and over again until you've taken them all down. I actually find this boss more challenging than the final boss of the game. Once we destroy the last cannon, the ship is destroyed, and we're moving on to the 5th and final level of SCAT. This level is really, really challenging. Hopefully you have a decent amount of health going into the level. The biggest thing are these blue lasers, and knowing where they're located in the level and where their trajectory is, so that when they start bouncing off the walls, it doesn't end up bouncing right into you. You gotta know where their sweet spots are so that you can survive getting hit and deal with whatever enemies as well are coming at you. Here, wait for, of course, the laser to go down and then make your way up here, destroying the turrets along the ceiling. Go down and dodge out of the way of the blue rotating projectiles. Want to make sure you avoid these things. You run into them, they will end up hurting. These bigger ships just fire really quickly forward. You could lock your cannons straight as well to give you that extra firepower, but usually just the wave gun close enough will be enough to take them down. Watch out for the laser right here as we slowly start to scroll up. As we rise up here, take out each one of these moving robot things, or whatever they are, on the platforms if you can, just to help you out. Then get into a nice position to watch out for the next laser that's going to be bouncing all around the room. As the screen starts to scroll to the right, fire so that you can take out the enemy coming straight at you. There's going to be a couple of them. There's ones that drop those blue projectiles that start circling around. Just dodge out of the way and then wait for the laser to get mostly off screen, so that then you're only going to have to dodge it or potentially dodge it once or twice in front of it. But right afterwards is another one starting to shoot. Thankfully pretty easy to kind of dodge since it's in a pretty big area. Here, be very, very careful that you don't end up getting hit. Take out this enemy first before going through. Immediately take out the two enemies on the top and bottom platforms right here. Be very careful getting out of here because of that laser shooting, and you can see that it kind of bounces right back up, so you have only a little bit of a space to be in that's safe right there. As the screen scrolls, you can take out these robots if you want to. There's going to be another laser right after that that bounces all the way around and comes actually downwards towards you, so stay against the wall right here so that you can dodge the laser several times before you can get past it. I recommend just keep destroying the robots one by one as they're showing up, just so there's less to deal with. Here at the top, wait for the lasers to fire and then go up whichever side you prefer. Here you could lock the cannon up straight if you want to. Usually I can still take out the enemies and hit them with it just kind of going side to side. Here we have more lasers. You can see there's a safe spot right here that you can stand and wait. You can see there's a bunch of spaces that you can be in where you're safe, but there's also plenty of spots that if you're standing there, you're going to end up getting hit by the blue lasers. Here, destroy both of the big ships firing out. I recommend just taking the top path. Just be careful you don't accidentally run into this thing. Thankfully, the final boss is actually pretty easy. Just knowing where you need to be, you can dodge most of the attacks fairly easily. Here we grab our health for the level, so we just have a little bit longer to go before we are face to face with the game's final boss. Just keep dodging these things one by one. They're pretty slow sometimes. Basically, it's a last-ditch effort to try to take you down before you end up making it to the boss. For the boss, you want to lock your cannons in front of you, and then stay in the center of the screen. And we're going to do, once again, slightly up and slightly down in order to avoid projectiles and take out the boss pretty easily. I'm going to stay close right away just to end up blasting it, but then I'll get away from it and show where you should be in order to dodge. So stay right here. You're going to go slightly down, then slightly up, and then stay up or down in order to dodge the center projectiles, and then do the same thing. Head down, head up, and then above the thing. And also, since you have that extra cannon firing at it, it shouldn't take long to take down the boss, and you can enjoy the ending, the scat. So there you have it, S.C.A.T Special Cybernetic Attack Team. An interesting game, a scrolling shooter that's pretty fun to play, regardless of its name. Definitely challenging at spots, though thankfully the North American version is easier than the Japanese counterpart. Is this a game that you have fond memories with? Let me know now in the comments. Is this something that you really enjoy playing, or is it something that brings back some nightmares? But with that, it's going to wrap up this episode of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.